Why don't you play Ico the Dolphin on the Sega Saturn?
Wasn't on Sega Saturn. But that would be
Oh,
one hell of a
darn.
game to play, wouldn't it? It was on the Dreamcast.
I have the Dreamcast version. Tom Baker narrates.
Wait. Oh, it does have achievements. Good. I did get the right version of the game.
I know the best. I know the best Saturn game you could play.
Real Time Associates.
Do you know you know the best one you can play? Do you want to know what it is?
It's not the Iron
Play
Chef
Croc.
game. No, fuck no.
Play
No, Croc.
Croc,
No, Croc.
Croc,
No,
Croc,
no.
Legend of the Gobbos.
I remember playing the second game.
I love they have the same picture of this guy on all of these like newspapers.
I was actually enough to find the second game in the wild for real cheap. Bug 2, about 2005-ish.
I have like 3 copies of the second game. Don't know why.
Second one's supposed to be hard to find.
Oh. I have it on both PlayStation and PC.
Man, that's a nasty looking spider.
What game are you playing?
That spider's how I like all my women. A big giant booty and 6 legs.
Oh boy.
I mess up. Was the joke supposed to be
the dragonfly. Yeah.
Literal
dragonfly.
Yeah. Or was it supposed to be I like my women with big butts and 6 feet? 6 feet with a big booty, not with a big booty and 6 feet.
I like big bugs and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny.
Oh man, this camera is
Yeah.
daunting or jarring.
Yeah. This is the game that I've noticed every freaking YouTube channel or whatever. They always point out when they talk about like how the Sega Saturn failed. So it always makes it seem like this game wasn't very good, but I don't know. It kind of looks like fun to me.
It was a launch game, so it's a bit unfair to say something like this was what failed the console.
Yeah, but this is one of those games that they always show off from the Saturn weirdly. I don't know why. They just always do. I was like, what? Real Time Associates sounds like I've definitely heard the company name. Like, I think I've seen somebody from it, like, being interviewed on Mad Chat or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't actually give you a
Mad Chat is cool because they interview, like, people who do retro games, or used to make retro games, yeah. They have a really cool set of interviews with John Romero when he talks about Daigatana. And also, yeah, well, that's a really old episode, but like they also had like Al Lowe, who did the Leisure Suit Larry games.
Oh.
Yeah. Not too many of the LucasArts guys, but some of them. Some of them been on there. I think the guy who did what the heck is that game called? It's the Alien Escape from Fractalus or something like that. It's a very early LucasArts game from like the early to mid '80s.
Escape from Uranus.
I don't know about that, but they came from Uranus. Was the friggin' Tempest clone that you could play in actually on a like what looks like a Sega Saturn in GTA San Andreas. Yeah.
But like, oh, son of a bitch. I can tell you one of the reasons why I believe that the Sega Saturn failed back in its day. The same reason that the Dreamcast failed. You couldn't find any of the bloody games in the shops. Well, not where I live.
Oh.
They were so hard to find.
Well, that's part of the problem. Yeah. It was also like just the release, because they they panicked in the it happened at it was in the very first E3, they announced the PlayStation and the Saturn in the same place, and Sega panicked and they released it straight away. And yeah, that was one problem, was the fact that they didn't have a lot of games because they rushed the release. But then, like, later on, like, still, like, you know, because in Japan, you know, the Saturn actually did very well in Japan, and there were a lot of Japanese games. But then, like, but then fucking Bernie Stolar, you know, that fucking fuckwit, you know, decided that they weren't gonna release any of those games. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, he basically just let the Saturn die. Like that's the thing. Like, it's like,
It sucked, yeah.
how the fuck does that guy get to run a company? Like, I've never understood.
Oh, this.
You know what? Do you know what Bernie Stolar's previous job before he became the head of Sega of America was?
Hey, don't tell me he worked for EA.
But he worked at Atari when they launched the Jaguar.
Oh
no.
And then Sega thought, hey, this guy knows video games. I mean, to be fair, the Jaguar had a lot of other problems. I'm not saying, like, he was the reason it failed, but it's like, he certainly didn't do a whole lot for, you know, the Saturn.
I can actually say some positive things about the Jaguar. It had Alien vs Predator on it, and it had a decent Bubsy game on it.
No.
I mean, yeah, the thing is, like, Jaguar wasn't like a bad system, but like the marketing was just like obnoxious. The whole, like, oh, it's 64-bit, and no, it's fucking not. You can't fucking lie to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, but that's the whole problem with the Jaguar. It wasn't like it could have been a really good, like, 2D game system, but they were trying to make it into a 3D game system, but all the 3D games on it pretty much sucked, and then the few good games were like the traditional ones. And, you know, of course it cost, you know, an arm and a leg as well, so, you know, that's the other thing. Like, it was going up against, like, Super Nintendo and Mega Drive, and, you know, it's like, you know, it's the parents' wallets. That's what won the console wars for those systems.
They did.
It wasn't fucking bits.
Oh no, dung beetles.
Which is, you know, I always feel bad for the turbo graphics, because that was that legit was a really good system. I have some really good games on it, but yeah, like, the marketing on it was like complete shit.
Did you hear the reason why that console never got released in Australia? Or the
No, why?
Probably because it didn't get released in most PAL regions, but yeah, go on.
There's this there's this guy called Last Gamer who apparently had a hand in us. Because he was working at, like, this big supermarket at the time, and this company, NEC, just rocked up and were testing and were just showing off the PC engine to the employees that worked there, and wondering, like, their opinion, and the guy just had to say, oh, that system looks shit, and yeah, the system never came out because of that.
Oh.
This is like early 90s though, so it's a bit late for that console anyway.
Not that late, like, it came out in '88, but, you know, the thing is, I don't know. I think NEC just kind of lost faith because, you know, because they couldn't compete with Sega on the American market. So, but still, like, it seems bizarre that they didn't, like, go through with a proper, like, PAL release, because the one country in Europe that got the TurboGrafx was the UK, and UK was, like, very much like Sega's like a Sega market. So, you know, it had no chance. And then this is the other weird thing. You could get PC engines in some European countries. I think like Belgium and Netherlands.
Yes.
But if you wanted to get it, you had to go to an NEC store, and they had to order it direct from Japan, but with, like, the power supply and then the AV cords that would comply with, like, European television sets. And that's like, that's asking a lot. Like, you know. First of all, you have to know it exists. Then you have to fucking order it. And then you have to wait probably a couple of weeks at least for it to, like, get shipped from Japan. Yeah, I think that was like it was just a fucking train wreck. Like that's the thing when you
Son
look
of a
back at
bitch!
like TurboGrafx marketing, like the only thing that they ever talk about it like it's 16 bits, and and like they were shit talking about Sega, like
Yeah.
because that was the thing. Like Sega had an obnoxious marketing campaign, but they did the smart thing, which was they punched up against like Nintendo, who were already like the big guys. So it was a ballsy move. But like when TurboGrafx rocked up to the scene and they were saying like, oh, but Sega's just like a cheap knockoff of what we're doing, and nobody knew who NEC were. So even though it's true that TurboGrafx, I mean the PC Engine like came out first, nobody knew who NEC were. So like that just comes off like, well, you kind of seem like the imposter. It's like that video of that like lawyer. It's like the lawyer who was in a Zoom meeting and had the cat filter on.
Yes.
I'm live now, but I'm not a cat. That's exactly what a cat would say.
Yes.
Sorry, that went a bit off the rails there at the end, but yeah, but that's what it kind of feels like. And that's the thing, like the TurboGrafx had good games, but they didn't like market them enough. They just like, oh, it's the 16-bit system, and like, yeah, sure, but you need games for that. The same problem with the Saturn then, unfortunately.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of things went wrong with the Saturn, but that's one thing.
Oh, I finally got past that shitty beetle.
Oh.
Oh, bugger off. Bugger off. Ah! Puns. Get away from me! I mean, this game isn't terrible so far, but it is incredibly rough around the edges.
Yep.
Mm.
And also the other thing, like what you said, Kaiser, how you couldn't find games for the Saturn, and the same problem kind of with the Dreamcast. Well, that's because the Saturn bombed because it bombed so hard, like Sega didn't really have the money to keep up with demand. So that's why. Yeah. Which sucks, yeah. It's like one system that bombed so hard that it basically ruined all their like future endeavors, so yeah.
Yeah, it sucks.
I know. Oh, what do I remember about the late? Oh shit! I remember. What did I remember about the late 90s? I know you could find Super Nintendo stuff relatively easy, even all the way up to like the year 2000. But but by 99 2000, you weren't gonna find like the Prime stuff. I mean, at most you could probably find yourself a brand new copy of Donkey Kong Country and maybe Pinocchio, which is a very odd choice of game, but. But one of the biggest bullshittery things I've ever seen at the end of a console's life was with Conker's Bad Fur Day for the Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
Like that was one of those games like when a console was like near the end of its life, they mark it down to like really cheap. That was one of those games that they kept on marking up because it was a highly sought after game. Because I remember it was like an $80 game, then 2001 and happened, it was a $110 game right in Kmart. It's like, geez, they're ripping me off, guys.
That's good. That's a really good game. It also did not use the N64 memory expansion. Yeah, it ran perfectly fine without it. Yeah.
I saw a really good Rare commercial, like not rare as in hard to find, but rare as in like rare.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch. It was an ad where Conker was just stumbling around drunk. Then suddenly Banjo pops up and he's practically like, "Oh no, not you."
I remember that one. Yes.
And it ends with him like slicing up the the middle of the commercial had him slicing up the Microsoft logo to turn into the Rare ad. Then he throws the chainsaw away. Then Banjo just falls into pieces. And then
wasn't that the ad? Wasn't that the ad that they shared at the Microsoft purchase?
Yeah. And what was it
that
like?
One that destroyed.
They had like this fairy lady. I don't know if she was from one of the Banjo games or if she was from Cameo, but she popped up and Conker's just like, oh, baby. Yep. Oh, baby is like just comes up to her and the fairy lady just grabs him and puts him in his pocket. And puts him in her pocket, I should say. Puts him in a. Oh,
that video kind of killed Rare because all of those IPs they don't make games for anymore.
Did you ever watch Kaiser? Did you ever watch Chris Sieber, you know, the creator of Conquer, and like his buddies like playing Conquer on YouTube?
No.
Yes, I remember that. Is that the one where they got?
Yeah, I love that too. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, especially like, because they have like such wonderful nicknames for all that. Because Robin Beanland, who was the composer, like Robin the Ginger Bastard Beanland.
Changed it again.
Like it's funny those guys did like game, largely like games for kids, but like you know that's the kind of like jokes that they also made.